Hey traders, welcome to this week's Forex Focus. I hope you are all doing well and you've all had a good week in the markets. There are certainly some nice moves out there, so hopefully you managed to jump on a few of those. A lot of them we talked about in last week's Forex Focus. And actually there are a couple of setups that we're going to look at this week which are really interesting as well. Now, if you're new to the channel or you've been watching these videos for a little while and you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. And then you hit a bell so that you get a notification as and when I release these videos. Now, what we're going to do today, as always, we're going to look at all of the major currency pairs to look at the opportunities that could be presenting themselves. And as I just said, there are a few out there. But what we're going to start off by doing is we're going to look at the overall sentiment of the market, which, as you know, if you have watched a few of these, is where I like to begin, because having a bit of a directional bias really helps with our overall win percentage and hence our overall profitability. So last week in the markets, there were a few key things that happened. Obviously, we've still got the issue of the US debt ceiling, which, as I said last week, I think it'll probably go down to the wire. And whichever way it turns out, I think that they'll come to an agreement. But whichever way it turns out, I think that the US dollar is going to be supported in the short term. But apart from that, some other things that perhaps we didn't see was the RBNZ, so the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. They came out and they raised interest rates. But they also indicated that that was the end of their hiking cycle. And obviously the New Zealand dollar was impacted as a result of that, because that wasn't something that the markets were necessarily anticipating. Then we had Governor Bailey from the Bank of England talking this week. And again, he had a few kind of strange comments, but the primary part of it was to do with the fact that they're still focusing on inflation and their current models aren't really sort of doing the job in terms of helping them forecast it. They see inflation coming down, slower than their models had predicted. But in terms of where we are in terms of interest rates, he didn't say that we're at the peak or that we're near the peak, but he said we're probably closer to the peak. So it's kind of a little bit cryptic there. But what I read from that is that I think that we're probably going to have another 1 or 2 interest rate hikes and then potentially a pause. But again, everything's going to be focused on the inflation data. So whilst, the economic numbers are going to be something that is interesting, it's really going to be inflation, because if that doesn't come down quickly enough, then it's going to really sort of like tie the central banks, and not just the Bank of England, but, like ECB will have the same sort of issue, will tie their hands in terms of what they can do, because they can't really start to cut interest rates to boost the economy until they've got a firm grip on inflation. And at the moment, it's not coming down nearly as quickly as they would like. So in terms of the sentiment of the market, like I said, I think all of the central banks are pretty much in a very similar position at the moment. Some of them may say that they've come to the end of their rate hike cycle. But as I said, the inflation numbers are really what they're going to be looking at. Now, in the short term, I think we're still going to see some dollar strength. Okay, so we've got all of the issues to do with the debt ceiling, and I talked about this in last week's video. I think that, if we get a positive outcome, that, the US dollar will benefit as a result of that. If we get a negative outcome, then the US dollar is also going to benefit as a bit of a safe haven currency. So I can see that over the next week or so, we're still going to get some dollar strength. Although when we look at some of the pairs like the euro, like the pound, which we'll get to in a minute, you'll see that they have pulled back quite a bit. And my expectation for the end of the year is actually that they're going to strengthen somewhat. And you might find that some of the euro or the pound bulls may come out and start to buy the market a little bit, just because of the levels that we've got to. So they've pulled off quite a bit. And obviously when you get that little bit of profit taking, you get that little bit of selling, there is some opposite price action. But I'll talk about that when we get to the charts. So let's start off by looking at the Aussie dollar. If we look at the Aussie dollar here, we were talking about last week, we were in this sort of range here. In fact, let me zoom into the chart. I can flick back and forth between the daily and the 4-hour. So if you remember last Sunday, we were looking at the market over here. We said that we expect the market to move down, and obviously we want to pay attention to the support level down here at the 0.6560. The market did sell off to that level. It broke through it, so it really didn't pay any attention at all. It then broke a little bit further down before Friday, pulling back a little bit, treating that as a little bit of a resistance level and then selling off. I am now quite bearish in the Australian dollar, particularly as we've broken below that structural level. I'm not saying that we're not going to see any more of a pullback. We may see a pullback, it's absolutely natural to see that, but I do think that the real next stopping point will be down here towards the 0.6204 level. Okay, so and I don't think that that's going to be something where it's going to happen overnight. So we're not necessarily going to hit that next week, but certainly in the months to come, I will not be surprised if we get down to 0.6202. How do we play this in the meantime? Well, like I said, you've got to follow the price action. The sentiment obviously is supportive of this as well. So we think that we're going to have some dollar strength, and that will play out here. So the dollar, again, is the quote currency in this particular pair here. The Australian dollar is the base currency. So when you get a currency pair where the market's selling off like this, it means that the quote currency is actually getting stronger. Okay, so from that perspective, that plays into our narrative. That sort of supports what we think is going on in terms of the sentiment in the market. We've got the technicals aligned with the fundamentals, so I really can see that this is going to go lower in the coming weeks. In terms of the price action, we're looking for bearish momentum candles to signal us to get in there. The next one is the euro dollar. So again, we spoke about this last week, our expectation. I'll jump over to the 4-hour chart. You probably see it a little bit better here. So going back to where we were last week, we were just in the midst of this pullback over here. We said that we can see the market breaking lower, which it did. And then we said that if it breaks this level here, then potentially it can hit the support level down at 105.78. It has now broken through that level. So some really nice opportunities to take some profits on those short-term, tactical euro short opportunities there. Now what I'm looking for is I'd like to see the market break through the 1.0706 in order to entice me in there to get in there and start selling the market a little bit more. In terms of the longer term picture, so I said that the market has pulled back quite a lot, which you can see here. So we may get a little bit of a bounce up. It may not be the let's say the medium to longer term directions. We need to be careful. I do want to be a buyer here, but I'm not sure that next week is going to be the time. However, we need to be open to that. And if we do get the opportunity, then we have to, take our trades as our system dictates, because that's the way our edge plays out. And then I'd be looking for a long opportunity if we get a big bullish momentum candle here. But I'll be waiting for the markets to trade above the moving averages before I get into a trade. So if I see a buy trade over here, but it remains below those moving averages, I won't be taking it. I'll just be looking at that as a bit of a pullback and a bit of an opportunity to sell into a rally. The next one is the pound dollar, and that is really it's much the same situation. We were talking about it last week as well. On the 4-hour chart, you can see that we were talking about selling the market, and there were plenty of opportunities to sell this last week. The market just sold off very nicely. So some nice, relatively painless trades there and opportunities for you to be able to take profits on the short trade. Now, as much as we still believe the market is going to continue to go lower, at least temporarily, there is the option here for the market to start to rally from this point. And in terms of confirming the move to the upside, again, we need to be trading above our moving averages in order for us to be able to say that, okay, the technicals are starting to point to a buying opportunity, rather than saying that this is just a bit of a rally and an opportunity to sell it on a tactical opportunity on the shorter term charts. The New Zealand dollar, I said to you, it got sold last week, so it really didn't benefit very much from the RBNZ coming out and saying that they're going to now, put their interest rate hikes on hold, and the next move is obviously going to be interest rate cuts. Not entirely sure. I completely believe that, but the markets certainly do, and the markets broke through the structural level here at the 0.6090. So we are bearish here, not just from a 4-hour perspective. We very much are from the 4-hour perspective, as you can see here. So we've got a very, very nice down move. We expect some consolidation, so maybe a session or two's movements sideways and a little bit of profit taken here, because you have to remember that all of these moves, the markets don't ever just move in one straight line. Even if there is strong sentiment behind it, it ebbs and flows, because there's going to be be constant sort of profit taking during a move. And after this sort of a move here, you would expect that. So we'll be looking for a little bit of profit taking here on the 4-hour chart. But once we start to break below the 0.6033, then we need to start looking for further shorting opportunities. And I think things like the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar, are probably good ones to express our dollar strength view, because they're the ones that they've got the weakest currencies, comparatively when you look at the euro or the pound. So, for example, if you're looking for dollar strength here, we've also got the fact that the RBNZ aren't exactly sort of giving confidence to the markets. And obviously that's weighing on the New Zealand dollar. So that would look to be a very good pair that you could express your view looking for dollar strength, because you've also got the New Zealand dollar weakness in there. Looking at the dollar CAD. And so the dollar CAD here is sort of in this bit of a range bound market here. In terms of direction, I still think that essentially if we get out above the 1.3669 area, we have to be looking for long opportunities. It just makes the most sense there. It looks ugly now, but if you look back to periods when you get big rallies, we have this saying where low volatility leads to periods of high volatility. And that's exactly what we could be seeing here. So you need to be careful not to wait for too much confirmation before you end up getting involved in this trade, because you may end up missing it. So from my perspective, if we get a bullish momentum candle close above 1.3665, it's worth taking that opportunity there, because it could end up being, an opportunity like this one over here. You'll notice that prior to that, the markets was moving up and down, and it's just kind of ranging. It's very, very untidy price action, but once it started to get going, there were a lot of nice opportunities there, and I think that this could be the same thing. So if we get above there, we need to become buyers in the dollar CAD, and again that plays into our dollar strength narrative and sentiment that we're looking at there. The dollar franc is one of the ones that we think probably will go against the grain. So if there's going to be one that sort of strengthens most against the dollar, it will probably be the Swiss franc. We are currently at a previous level of support, which is now acting as resistance. So if we get a bearish momentum candle here that takes us below the moving averages, then we're going to be looking for shorting opportunities. So, if you want to sort of mitigate your risk a little bit, what you might do is look to, let's say take the New Zealand dollar short and then also take the dollar franc short. And then you'll kind of have two opposing views there to do with the dollar. So if the dollar does start to take a little bit of heat, the dollar franc will do well. If it does well, then the New Zealand dollar will do well. And then hopefully, neither of them will stop out and both of them will make you money. Okay. And then the final one is the dollar yen here. We've been saying get long the dollar yen for a little while. And sure enough, obviously it's popped up here. So I'm going to be following this to the upside for the next couple of weeks anyway. It does look like the market has rallied quite a bit, although the yen pairs, they do have the capability to do that. If you look back at this move back in August, there were many times when you could say, oh, it's gone too far. It's gone too far. Start to take profits. And in some instances, there's something that you might want to do. But this is a particular pair that tends to trend really well. So from that perspective, you just have to take every opportunity that it presents itself. So the next momentum candle here, we want to get in there and we want to be buyers, okay? If we get a pullback, and this would probably be the best trade, if we could get a pullback to the 139.04 area, so over the next, let's say, few days, get some nice consolidation there. Then maybe on Wednesday or Thursday or something, maybe we can jump down to a 4-hour chart and we get the pullback. This is going to be the area to be buying from. So if the market gets back to 138.98 and nothing sort of fundamentally changes in the markets, then you need to be looking at this as an opportunity to buy the dollar yen. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gives you some food for thought for the week ahead. As I've said in previous episodes of this isn't trading advice. I'm not going to say go and take these trades in your account and don't do your own due diligence. You absolutely need to do that. These are my own opinions. So these are things that I'm looking to do in my account. I'm just walking you through my thought process. You could then go and take that and see if it works for you. And if it does, then obviously I'm glad that this benefits for you. If it doesn't and you've got an opposing view, then that's absolutely fine as well. You know, there's nothing to say that I'm going to be right on everything. You might be right, but it just gives you some things to think about. Okay. As I said at the beginning, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get a notification the next time I upload one of these videos. Also, if you don't have a trading strategy that's profitable and consistent for you, then why don't you hop along to my website? I'll post the link beneath the video here. Sign up for my free masterclass where I will walk you through my entire trading approach, which I think you will find useful. And as I said, if you're not consistent with your trading at the moment, if you aren't making the sorts of profits that you want to make, then my proven framework should be able to help at least point you in the right direction. Okay, if you have any questions, please post it beneath the video. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the very next one. Take care now.